Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with me today. Today I want to take a quick video to address the issue of condensation and moisture on your bow, and particularly here in the spring and summer months, if you're bringing your bow out of a cold truck or out of your cold basement, which is what I do, to come practice here in my backyard. The inverse is also true in the fall when you take this out of the cold woods and bring it into your warm house. So let's talk about some issues that you can easily address when you bring your bow outside, as well as why sometimes when you start shooting out and you need to kind of warm up and your accuracy is a little bit all over the map, and how it gets better throughout the day. It could also be because your bow also needs to warm up or cool down, depending on which one it is. So first things first, I don't need to go third grade science on you here. Cold metal, hot, humid exterior. It's about 70 degrees today, about 70-80% humidity, and it is definitely going from a cold basement to this immediate hot, humid environment. You can feel that tacky moisture all over your risers, limbs, and cams, and that all that moisture as well is also in your bowstring. Now, regardless of whether you wax or anything, you're going to have moisture and condensation on your bow. So what I like to do is I'll bring my bow out when I'm coming to practice here in my backyard, and I'll put it on its kickstand here, and I'll set it out in the sun for just a few minutes to get all that moisture to evaporate and to get the bow to the exterior temperature that it's going to be shot in. The inverse is true for a hunting situation. I'll make sure that when I go to practice with my bow, it is in a cold environment, so that way when I take it to the woods, it is also a cold environment. Now, your bow is basically made of mostly inorganic material in the sense that it's not like a wooden recurve or longbow where the limbs can twist and everything changes with temperatures. It's not that much of a fluctuation, but it is enough to sometimes throw off your tune a little bit, and your arrows might not group as well. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to turn into Jesse Broadwater, Levi Morgan, if you warm up your bow or cool down your bow to match the season that you're shooting in, but it definitely will help also with just the overall temperature, and particularly if you go from the cold to the hot out here, you won't get that slippy condensation on your hand, and it just makes for an overall more pleasant shooting experience. Now, also bring it from a cold basement outside and shooting, when you take it back to the cold basement, now the bow is warm and it's going to become hot inside and condense there as well. And this is really important actually for the hunting season, when we kind of neglect the bow maintenance and we're more focused on the hunting, right? We've done all the tuning, right? Our bow is in time, our arrows are flying beautifully, so on and so forth, and we kind of neglect the bow in terms of its maintenance. And this is where rust starts to happen on limb bolts and riser, things that go into the riser, like your sight brackets. This has a sight light situation, your rest as well. Stuff starts to rust. You're like, well, where'd that come from? I didn't set it out in the rain. It's because you had condensation taking from a cold to hot environment. So if you bring it out of the woods and bring it into your house, don't immediately put it in the case. A lot of people like to store this in a case or put it in the closet where there's no air circulation. Leave it in your living room, set it next to the couch or whatever, let it come to the interior temperature, 70 degrees, 68 degrees, whatever. It's a heck of a lot better than 20 or 30 outside. Let it come up to temperature, let that moisture evaporate off, then put it away. You put a cold bow in a warm house, in a case or in a closet, it is going to rust. I guarantee it. And I've seen every litany of rust style that you could possibly imagine. I've seen it all over the limb pockets, of course, the limb bolts, the grommets here on the side, the rest. I've seen stuff that is so rusted and seized in from this temperature change and never being taken off the bow, that there's so much rust that the sight or quiver bracket can't even be removed without almost breaking the head of the bolt off with an Allen key. It's really bad. So removing stuff at the end of the year, waxing everything, wiping everything out, making sure everything's clean and nicely fitting, you'll be a lot better off in the long run. I have other videos, and I'll put them in the description below, on end of season or pre-season bow maintenance, so you can keep yours running like a clock every single time. Now, let's say you are late to the game and you're just seeing this video for the first time and you have rust. What are some great ways to get rid of rust, or at least to maintain rust on your bow so it just doesn't get worse? Exterior rust isn't going to cause you a problem. It's just cosmetically unsightly, unless it's so bad that it's caking into the bolts that are keeping your sight and quiver bracket on your riser or your rest on your riser, like I mentioned earlier. But if it's cosmetic and you want to get rid of it or at least stop it, My favorite stuff is Ballistol. Now this is the same stuff you would use for firearms. So if you're a firearm person, you hunt with a gun or you shoot pistols and shotguns for fun, Ballistol is the way to go, at least in my opinion. You could basically eat it with a spoon. That's how many uses there are for Ballistol, and it's great. I'll open up the cap, just puncture the tip, and same thing used for swabs for a rifle or shotgun bore. I'll put some on a Q-tip, and I'll run that Q-tip inside every single bolt head on my bow towards the middle and into the season when I'm going to be doing this hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold switch. This will sit on the exterior of the bolt, maybe soak in a little bit if there's a little bit of rust already there, and will keep the moisture from penetrating further and rusting out further. This is more of a preventative measure. Now, when you do add some, if you kind of take a little bit of a nylon brush to it, like an old toothbrush or something, you can get off some of the exterior rust. It's not going to clean it up perfectly, but at least it's going to keep it from rusting further, and it has so many other uses around your home that it's worth purchasing. Now, Ballistol does have an odor, but it does dissipate with time. Another thing that you could also use that a lot of automotive folks would use is fluid film. I have it on my vehicles, my truck, and my car because there's a lot of crap from the salt and the rocks and the mud here in Pennsylvania because our winter basically lasts like 6 months out of the year. That will work as well. It will really penetrate in. It does not dry, but it stinks. Fluid film is a really lanolin, petroleum-based product, and it doesn't evaporate and it doesn't dry over time. So even though it'd be really good at preventing further rust down the road, it just stinks so much. And I know that we can't eliminate all potential human odor, but adding that much stink, it's not really worth it. Although, I will say by far, of all the preventative rust measures, it would really work the best. So that's all for this video. If you have any questions on bow maintenance, and particularly here when you're dragging your bow through the mud of the 3D and outdoor season, or getting ready for the fall, follow the links in the description below. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, send me an email, or even drop a comment here for everybody on YouTube. Hope you're able to get outside, enjoy the sport of archery hunting if you so choose. Definitely enjoy God's beautiful creation, and we'll get to see you next time.